Grey's Anatomy is a show that does not mind dealing with death. Set in a hospital, there's obviously always going to be some patients dying, but Grey's takes this to a whole new level. Between active shooters, airplane accidents, bombs, and a multitude of other disasters, Grey's has a way of putting our emotions through the ringer. We can't even name all of the terribly sad deaths that we have experienced while watching Grey's, but these are the saddest ever deaths on Grey's Anatomy ranked. Warning, some major spoilers ahead. Please give this video a like if you enjoy it, then subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. That way you will never miss a thing. Thatcher Grey. Meredith's father had always been pretty absent from her life. He raised Lexi and had a great relationship with her, but he kind of abandoned Meredith and they never really connected even after Meredith's mom died when she was an adult. So when Meredith heard that her father might be dying soon, it was not an easy decision to go and visit him, but she did do it and they had a few good but awkward moments and then he died. It was sad because it stopped any opportunity that they could ever have to build a relationship. Doc the dog. In my opinion, any animal dying in a movie or a show probably hits harder than most human characters. And Doc was no different. He brought Meredith, Derek, and Addison together, and his death was truly devastating to Meredith. It was one of the times that we actually saw that Derek was still a good guy when he comforted Meredith. It was all really sad. Ellis Grey. Ellis was an incredible doctor, but a pretty terrible mother. At the time of her death, we hadn't completely gotten to know her entirely yet. We later got to know the strong woman and doctor she was through flashbacks, but still her death was really sad. Her relationship with Meredith was seriously messed up and complicated, and the added layer of her Alzheimer's disease made it even sadder. But she was the only parent Meredith ever knew, and losing her was still incredibly painful. Dylan Young. He was only in Grey's for a very short time, but his death was one of the most memorable and sad deaths ever to be on the show. When a patient had an actual bomb on his body, Meredith ended up with her hands on the bomb, keeping it stable. Then Dylan came in as a member of the bomb squad to help Meredith and keep her calm. With his help, she eventually figured out how to take the bomb out of the patient. Then she handed it to Dylan and all was safe, or so we all thought. When he was carrying it out, the bomb exploded, killing Dylan. It was super unexpected and incredibly unnecessary and really sad. Elena Bailey. One of the most recent Grey's deaths, the death of Miranda Bailey's mom, is still super fresh in fans' minds. Miranda moved her parents to Seattle to be closer to her, but then the COVID-19 pandemic broke out and many of the assisted living homes in the area were affected. Elena got the virus and she became sick enough to be admitted into hospital. When Miranda had to tell her father that her mom was not going to make it, it was truly heartbreaking. And when she sang to her mom while she took her last breaths, it was really emotional. Adele Weber. Richard had been losing his wife Adele piece by piece as her Alzheimer's started to progress and she lost her memories. Then she went through an operation that was successful and it looked like she was recovering, but then she died off screen. It was sad to see the pain Richard was in after losing her, and the moment when they took one last dance in Richard's imagination is still an incredibly moving moment. Diane Pierce. Anyone who has ever had any loved one who has fought cancer knows how difficult it is to see them hurting, but how much you want them to keep on fighting. So seeing the journey that Maggie took with her adopted mom Diane was a really difficult and heartbreaking set of episodes. At first, Maggie forced her mom to keep fighting, probably long after what was right for her. So it was really sad when Maggie decided to accept what the outcome would be. Maggie was painting her mother's nails when she turned around to open the window. When she returned, her mom had passed away. Seeing her finishing her mom's nails after she had died was one of the saddest moments ever, and fans were sobbing right along with Maggie through it all. Samuel Norbert Avery. Any baby dying would always be a super sad moment, but seeing Jackson and April saying goodbye to their little son was seriously moving. April had a routine ultrasound when they found out that her little boy had a severe defect, which meant that there was no way that he would survive. His bones were already breaking inside the womb, and they had to make the difficult decision of inducing labor to be able to hold him while he was alive and to spare him pain. The entire event was super sad, and it changed the characters forever. Henry Burton. Henry met Teddy when he first went to the hospital, and eventually Teddy married him to get him on her insurance. It started out as a marriage of convenience, but the two soon became close, and watching their love grow was really sweet. They eventually realized that they loved each other, but then his next surgery went really badly and he bled out. Watching Teddy while she grilled Christina about the operation was so intense. Knowing how devastated Christina was when she found out the patient was Henry was super sad. But the worst moment came when Teddy finally stood over Henry's body and completely broke down. Andrew DeLuca. Another of the most recent deaths to come out of Grey's, DeLuca's character left a pretty big void to fill in future seasons. He had his own struggles with mental health, but he is one of the most genuinely good characters that have ever been on the show. So when he was stabbed while chasing down a trafficking ring, it was pretty fitting. He was always focused focused on helping others. But when he died, it was really difficult to believe. It was so unexpected, and it was so sad. Even more so because he had finally begun the journey to be healthier. And when he visited Meredith on the COVID beach and said goodbye before walking away with his mother, it was seriously bittersweet. Denny Duquette Jr. The relationship between Denny and Izzy was so super sweet, but a really bad idea from the start. There was a good chance that Denny would end up dying, but it was still one of the most devastating deaths on Grey's Anatomy ever. Izzy did everything that she could to keep Denny alive, but when he died from a blood clot after surgery, it broke her heart. Who could forget the moment where Izzy was dressed in her pretty dress, refusing to let Denny go? George O'Malley. George was one of the first group of interns that all started out right along with Meredith, and he was one of the nicest characters that started out in the group. Then one day, a John Doe came into the hospital that was severely disfigured from a bus accident, where he was hit by the bus when he pushed a woman out of the way. The moment when all of his friends realized that the seriously injured patient was actually George was seriously jaw-dropping and sad. Mark Sloan. McSteamy was a fan-favorite character, and people were really rooting for him and Lexi to get together. Then they both got in an aviation accident that left both of them severely injured. We will talk about Lexi's fate in a little bit, but Mark's death left its own mark. Mark made it back to the hospital, but he had severe injuries. Then he had a surge of health that allowed him to say and settle everything with everyone in his life. But soon his health declined and he was put on life support. Eventually the machines had to be turned off and he died with Callie and Derek by his side. Derek Shepard. Derek was one of the best neurosurgeons in the world and the love of Meredith's life. So when he died, it was incredibly sad and one of the most tragic deaths in Grey's history. He stopped to help victims of a car accident and he got them all to the hospital safely when he was hit by a truck. He was far away from his own hospital and was taken to a small town hospital where the doctors weren't super experienced with head injuries. Because they didn't get a head CT, Derek eventually died from brain injuries. The brilliant doctor that saved all those brains could not be saved. It was so sad and so frustrating at the same time. Fans were screaming at the screen for them to just give him a scan, but they didn't, and it led to Derek's death. Meredith made it on time, and she got to say goodbye to him, and to let him know that she would be okay, and she has been. She has been really great on her own. But the moment that she lost Derek has left a scar on her heart and on the hearts of Grey's fans everywhere. She did get to see Derek again recently on her COVID beach, and that gave Meredith the moment of closure that she deserved. And it was also super sweet to see them back together. Lexi Grey. In my opinion, the saddest death that ever happened on Grey's Anatomy was that of Meredith's little sister Lexi. The two had become incredibly close, so her death left Meredith devastated. But the moment of her death was really sad. She was stuck under debris from the plane crash and Mark was holding her hand. They discussed and dreamt about the life they could have built together. And then she slipped away. Her hand is still in his. It was heartbreaking. Grey's has ripped our hearts to shreds many times. Do you agree with this list, or did I miss any of the worst deaths? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.